tank, or she can go the route of off tank if she really wants to, because she can get away with it in this instance. So you give up so much room. All right. This is so cool. Is this a hack? I mean, it has to be a hack. That's so cool, though. Do they go through? Done. Alright, corrupting potion against Zed. I guess that's fine. Okay, this is fairly standard. Now remember, we're playing at ×2, and I'm probably not gonna pause. I may pause sometimes, but... Let me move this out of the way. NRG initiates line swap. This is good, the Alistar room, because Alistar has like dual potential.
So there's potentially a couple of things there, Adam. In as much as we thought that Wild Turtle and Adrian may be the ones that were going to lane swap, but it's hard to tell in pro play because obviously you can never be in comms. So because Immortals put out kind of a fan, there's reason to think that they either lane swap, predicting the lane swap's going to happen, or then there could even be the case that Wild Turtle and Adrian assume that they think they're going to lane swap, and it's the reverse psychology, and they just don't, right? Yeah. So it's effectively an upside down lane swap. But we don't know. That's kind of a guessing game. But yeah,
dual potential for any sort of shenanigans that can occur on the jungler or the mid lane early on. Some champions that would fall into that caliber of or that type of champion would be like Morgana, Leona. Leona in some ways, Morgana mostly, Thresh definitely. But there's a lot of champions that can't do that. So it's good. Now they do a 3-man. This is fine. Now who are they going to give it to? I guess you give it to Liss. Give it to Liss. Do not share it. What?
Unlucky crap.
Okay, so NRG gave the turret to Maokai. And this is fine. Let me go back really quick. Okay. This is fine. The speed at which NRG rotates them down is good. This is optimal. And now Nidalee only has East jungle pressure, so that's really nice because that means that her red jungle will be relatively healthy and there's no reason to go top lane. So now the problem though with Immortals is if you rotate now Lucian, you can't rotate Lucian and Janna back top, which they don't, so they send Huni up there, which is good. Okay, so this is all fine. Janna goes for the warding route, which is good. And the wards are very good right now. This is very close to ideal, which is nice to see.
Okay.
Who's he talking about with the wards? Like which team is warding ideally?
Probably Immortals.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, actually,
I would have said NRG.
NRG, yeah,
they don't have bot
NRG.
towers,
Yeah,
so
and,
they just lit up bot side.
Yeah. Okay. The quick thing I wanted to just point out on was, he says what we've generally been doing and what we should generally be doing, dependent on this situation. And this is why it's hard to explain to you what you should do in every time and what you shouldn't. Is that we would generally send our bot lane to face their top lane after the initial part of the lane swap, right? So we create the 2v1 again, and then say the 2v1 was in his top lane, to then pressure down the second tower, right?
Yeah.
In this instance, LS rightly says you shouldn't send the Lucian, Janna versus Mao. And what kind of reasoning do we think is behind this? So they could have bounced the wave and left List there, and then Lissandra within the 2v1, and then sent Lucian and Janna top versus Maokai.
I'm not even going to try and guess. I don't have a clue.
That's fine. Adam, Steve?
What was that? Sorry, Chin's bothering.
Why haven't Immortals sent, like, why didn't they bounce the wave and leave Liss here with a freeze and send Lucian and Janna top lane versus the Maokai to push this tower while their bot lane pushes this tower?
What kill pressure?
On who? What, on Maokai and Lissandra?
On Immortals, yeah.
When it comes to the level 6, they want to be able to utilize Huni. So by not trading towers, they're set up in a 2v2, so now the NRG's bot lane have to be scared once Lissandra gets 6. Like, they can't go halfway up the lane. They almost, I assume that lane just becomes dead for them.
Right,
Once
okay.
it hits that point.
So
Unless they have like really good control in their jungle and clear almost every single immortal wards so they can't get flanked, then it'd probably be okay.
There's a few things, isn't there? There's one, you've got to consider the alley roam pressure versus Janna. Right? Because obviously if they're in 2v1 lanes, the supports are completely free to roam. And they can then impact mid. They can then impact top lane or bot lane. Like they're kind of a free agent at that point to go where they want to go. In the kind of instance of what Maokai is going to become, it's similar to Lissandra, but not too bad. Maokai, no matter how much you deny him, he's always going to become Maokai and provide the utility a team needs. So actually shutting him down more isn't particularly necessary, and Lissandra doesn't have a hard time against Maokai anyway. And then creating this 2v2 where this 2v2's got a freeze for Immortals, it's perfectly fine to leave them in that 2v2 and like negate what this may be a freeze with. Rengar will probably do something around this area in order to prevent this bounce that probably occurred. I can't exactly see from this position, but prevent this bounce that occurred. And even if Nidlee's here, it's only a 2v2, and Lissandra early on is kind of more favourable in that instance. Nidley is kind of more favourable in that instance too, but you'll be fine. But effectively, what will occur here more than likely in the top side is that they'll break the freeze so that Lissandra can get some kind of a freeze going on her own, and then if that occurs, you create 2 dead lanes, right? And bot lane is effectively waiting to be dived for that to be broken. And if you know that as Immortals, then Huni can save TP for when it is needed.
When Rengar comes in here, kind of doesn't make any sense. I think this is a period where NRG knows that there's no reason for Rengar to be on the left-hand side, or he shouldn't be on the left-hand side because it's negative EV. And he should just be looking to match Moon on the right-hand side, and I think this is a pretty nice timing to just get some farm up. Nidalee knows that, and Nidalee is just on the right-hand side of the map, which is what I said she should be doing, so it's goodbye Moon, because she has no EV on the left side. Maybe Rainover knows that, and he went on the left-hand side as like a leveling process, but I guess it didn't pan out. But the problem with leveling processes is this isn't necessarily a game where you need it that much, and if you are a better team, which you would assume that I guess Immortals is, at this point in time, you would assume that they don't need to do range type stuff like that. So that's fine. Now the recall here is standard. Zed coming back into mid lane, and now Rengar, what is he? He's 5? Is he about to be 6? I can't see his XP bar. If he's about to be 6, this is really good, and then having Adrian up there with him as well is really smart as well. However, you should be able to read this as NRG. So the fact that Alistar isn't mid right now, and the reason that I mean he should be in mid is so that he can cover both angles. He can cover top lane, if Maokai gets shoved in and they make it look like they want to dive, because Zed could go for a Chinese style mid shove in 4-1 dive on top, and if they do that, then obviously NRG responds with the dragon, which is the only response that is available out of NRG, and then they rush to get bottom tower. But if that ends up happening, then it opens up the game for IMT, because then it forces IMT to have 2 Bank of America lanes, and NRG is on the defensive, which they don't want to be doing, because it means that they're forced to overextend inside of side lanes, which is exactly what IMT wants them to do when they have a Rengar inside of their comp, and they have so much gap close and angle pressure via Lissandra.
Okay. LS will probably talk about this in a second. But before he actually gives away anything, I want us to think about and discuss why NRG grouping up and trying to siege this. Would you guys consider this, either in our gameplay or any kind of gameplay, a good move?
No.
I don't think they
'Cause you
can
know-
actually
And
get
then,
your
if
level-
not, why
your
not? Or
level-
if so, then why?
Well, firstly, they should know that their level 6 spike is much weaker than Immortals in
Okay.
terms of straight up 5v5s.
Yep.
Just because of the strength of Lissandra ulti, Rengar being able to get in the backline, even Lucian damage just accelerates so much more than Corki. So in
Okay.
terms of 5v5, they're much weaker.
Yep, that's fine.
I assume. I'm not sure why they want to group mid so early. Because they didn't have the wave bot before they based at all. Like it wasn't even halfway up the lane when they based.
No.
And top is. I assume. I can't tell exactly if top is frozen, but it looks like it.
Yeah, pretty frozen, I think.
I think they felt
So maybe
pressured to do
they're trying
something.
to pressure to try and get out of the sideways situation, and then best case scenario they get a mid tower, which opens up the map a bit more. It means they can push up vision, so the Rengar can't really effectively roam everywhere if he's constantly being scouted out.
Anyone else got anything?
I think the reason they did this is just because they felt pressured to do something with Corki package, and like maybe they saw a bit of an opening, but there isn't really an opening there.
So yeah, there's a couple. The reason why I think they would have chosen to siege this is because Corki package, like you said, and the Rengar's just hit 6. If you're grouped, Rengar generally can't do as much as if you're, for instance, if this bot lane was kind of frozen here without a tower, it's 100% free gank from Rengar, right?
Yeah.
What should be occurring is that if you can't unfreeze this and you're frozen here against Lucian Janna, Nidalee should be around and 100% expect ready for the counter gank around in this bottom side of the jungle, because it's very likely going to happen. It's not good. They've either got that option or they dive this Maokai. They're the kind of 2 variants that Immortals can do right now. NRG have got a siege comp, which involves poking people out, taking this tower. They've probably seen Zed's half health. They probably feel like they can get this, because there's actually, outside of Lissandra, who's relatively short range anyway, and Lucian culling, There's very little wave clear on the side of Immortals. So this shouldn't be too difficult to take down. But what they haven't taken into consideration is that if you're in mid lane is the place where flanks are the very easiest to get at, because you can obviously come from north side or south side. And if you're sieging, you're kind of this far up the lane at maximum, and there's a whole room of space behind you in which flanks can occur. Zed with ult can get in and ult someone and generally always get back out. And there's no hard CC here, bar Varus ult if it lands on Zed. Stop him doing that. Okay, so we'll see.
They have a Rengar inside of their comp, and they have so much gap close and angle pressure via Lissandra. Teamfight is good. NRG does exactly what they don't need to do. So you look at...
Okay, so see, there's literally a double flank, right? Lissandra in from one side, Rengar in from the other side, with Lucian, so on and so forth, and 2 people die. Zed dies, but that's kind of fine. It thwarts everything that they want to do, and both goes on the AD carry, accelerates him.
So you look at bot lane, okay? You look at bot lane, you look at top lane. Why did NRG do that? No reason. Just a complete macro blunder, okay? There's absolutely no reason to do this. Now, some people might argue that obviously you don't want MIT to be able to make use of the side lanes and stuff, but they couldn't make use of the side lanes because Immortals dropped it. They dropped the ball on controlling the side lanes properly. So because they dropped the ball, you as NRG should just be like, okay, you guys really messed up. I guess you don't want to win. And then just embrace it. Right? You keep Alistar mid-centric, and the reason that you keep him mid-centric is to counteract the ability of Rengar and to counteract the ability of Zed, being inside of Immortals comp. And then with that being happened, Janna doesn't benefit from anything, because Janna is not there as a proactive gank support. She is there as a insurance policy when it comes to ganks. Now, if she was a little bit different, if she was like Leona or something, she would be a proactive gank support. But she is not a proactive gank support in the sense that when she was going to top lane, you heard me say that it was good. And there's a lot of moves that can come out of that. Now this is interesting because they're choosing to devote their Baron thing to mid lane, and this doesn't make any sense. Now, Corki being down here, this is what I was talking about. You see how far back Corki is? And this is the Rengar component, and this is what ends up happening. So if Immortals Now, Immortals has messed up the lanes, now they're getting the dragon, which is good, but it doesn't make it acceptable because they've already fumbled the lanes. This is bad by Zed. This is completely bad. There's no reason to have Zed be doing this. They benefit from the lanes being in the middle.
Okay, do you get that? It's quite
Yeah.
standardized. Zed runs bot, which is bot for absolutely no reason, whereas and it's just like giving more free farm to Corki, right? Whereas if the lane's in the middle and any kind of skirmish breaks out, it's very easy for Immortals to collapse with likes of Rengar, Lissandra with TP, Zed, so on and so forth. Whereas if that gets pushed in like that, and top lane gets pushed in like this, there'll be a point where it's very difficult to dive Maokai. And you're kind of getting lost of opportunities where you can create this skirmish situation.
They're just doing things that are bad. Now imagine if top looked the way that it was, and then you waited for Maokai, okay, and then you just have Varus poke because he has the tier. And did he have blue? I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his surrounding. Did he have blue? Another thing that NRG should be doing is they should be playing around Varus's blue. I guess he did not have blue, so we're just going to go forward. So these are complete blunders, macro-wise. There's no reason for them to be forcing stuff the way that they're doing. It just doesn't make any sense. They should not be moving past these two pillars right here. These flames, It's a no-go territory. The onus is on Immortals to find openings. If you simply restrict their ability to find openings and you suffocate the vision area in which their only openings are allowed, then what do? They can't do anything. Because when the game accelerates this fast, it actually doesn't benefit Immortals. Now, Immortals didn't necessarily make too big of macro blunders, but they did make some. And when you make some macro errors like this, with a team comp like this, you can end up potentially throwing away the game. But NRG is playing into their hands, and they're not rotating efficiently. This doesn't make any sense. Imagine a 4v4 in mid lane right now, with just Varus poking. What do? You drop a pink ward defensively on both sides. Rengar can't do anything. You laugh at Zed, and you just lock the lanes on top and bottom. You don't care, because they don't actually need dragons. NRG does not, because the way that NRG sieges a tower is just like this, okay? Dragons are irrelevant for it. Because if they succeed in poking out Immortals, they get the tower regardless. So the dragons are irrelevant for them. Now, Immortals actually needs the dragons because of how their comp operates, and they accelerate. Their comp is built off of acceleration, and it's built off of momentum. And it's built off of NRG not understanding vision control and overextending in terms of vision, and not knowing what their comp is supposed to do and what Immortals comp is supposed to do. Because when you play League of Legends, it's not just what you're supposed to be doing, it's what does the enemy comp want to do? How do they want to go about playing the game? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What is their strength against our biggest weakness? What is their biggest weakness against our bigger
Went back to the beginning.
Yeah, same here.
Rip.
Okay. Sorry, my whole thing's just like lagged out. Fuck. Okay, so everyone's still in it?
Yes.
I don't know what happened there, like everything on my PC just decided to not respond.
Fun.
Because it's like a speed VOD review, it's all a bit like kind of very like fast and ahead of. It's kind of quite jolty in terms of moving forward through a lot of things and skipping a lot of things and not actually like paying time to focus on a lot of things, and that's kind of I come in and helping you with that. But, shit like this, it's perfectly fine that this tower's gone down, because if NRG continue to do this, like this area is the very worst area in the map where you get like 5-man flanked, because there's no, when you're here sieging, there's no side way out. And you're completely
for me to show this.
okay.
He linked me. Portals necessarily make two things if you simply restrict their ability to find. So these are complete blunders, macro-wise. There's no reason for them to be forced. What is their strength? So the dragons are irrelevant for, well, if we go about the game this way, what is the likelihood of it producing a positive result? If we go about this way, what is the likelihood of it producing
Completely funneled into like this area, right? Where with Lysandra Rengar can hit you from either side or even behind, and you outright lose every fight if that's the case.
producing a positive result? If we go about the game this way, etc. Now, a lot of people think that, well, there's no way to coach that, or that's not important. No, bullshit. It's very easily to be coached, and it's very easy to be taught if you want to learn it. Because it's not difficult to learn, because it's a basic fundamental. This is irrelevant. Now, do the picks and the picks and bans, do they matter in how the comps are supposed to play out? Yes. Have we already seen, though, that neither team is using their comps? Well, Immortals has used it. Immortals has used...
There is echo somewhere of LS's voice.
Oh, is it mine?
Possibly, I don't actually know. I wasn't watching TS.
I'll just turn mine down, it's fine.
Alright, cool.
used some of their advantages given by their comp, and they've capitalized on those advantages sometimes. But has there really been an instance yet where the fact that NRG's comp is so far behind that they haven't been given chances to salvage? No. There's no pick and ban issue here. I mean, there is. This game is eligible to be called a pick and ban catastrophe. It is a pick and ban catastrophe. But does it seem like it's being demonstrated as such, that it's a pick and ban catastrophe? No, it's not. There is nothing to show that, if you're just watching the game and you have no idea about picks and bans and stuff, you would think that this is a relatively even game. This is not supposed to be an even game. This is supposed to be a complete blowout. What are they doing right here? You know what I mean? This doesn't make any sense. Now go 4-bot. 4-bot, 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 because that's the only thing they can do. 4...
Okay, so what you said about there is effectively that a comp like this is almost drafted specific to deal with Poke and Siege. And if this was played 100% perfectly, and this was played 100% perfectly, 100% of the time, this would win. And the reason for that is that the fundamentals of sieging is you're standing this kind of area towards a tower, taking down towers. The weaknesses with that is that because you're forcing a tower, there's a long distance between your safety of your tower and where you're stood sieging. You're funneled into positions where there's a lot of space behind you. There's side entrances to your position. So a team that can flank and hard engage on you is always going to be able to punish you for doing that, right? And the only way that this should win is that if they're trying to 5-man sit under their tower and wave clear and engage very linear wise. And this is something that we've been guilty of in the past, right? When we're against a team that's trying to siege against us, we can sometimes be all in this area, wave clearing, and if we're not wave clearing enough and this is going down, we're like, well, what can we do? And it's often because we're not getting enough flanks off, because, okay, so they're stood here, we're stood there, we engage, they go backwards, they've got unlimited running space backwards to run into. Whereas if you flank, they are here and there's nowhere to run, right? Kind of very simple, like simplified, but it's the generic principle of it.
God damn it. If they just go 4 bot, they laugh at Rengar, they laugh at Zed. Okay? And that is what Immortals doesn't want. And then Immortals they didn't necessarily mess up. They did what...
Okay. So, why is LS, like, saying so much that they should ignore this and head to bot?
Because then you negate one of the flank options, so you literally just ward the left side of bot lane and you're completely safe.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure they see Rengars above them as well before that.
So you can effectively pretend this is bot lane, and this is the entrance, and this is a solid wall. You ward this area in your rotation. You then stand this side of the lane with a pink ward roundabout beside you, and you siege the tower. There's very little flank potential. You're taking the tower super easy if you meet that wave, and it's effectively a free tower with no risk. Everyone get that?
Yeah.
Indeed.
up, they did what they were supposed to do, and then the ball is back in NRG's court to do what they're supposed to do. If NRG flops it and doesn't do what they're supposed to do, then Immortals comes out with a huge edge, which is what basically just ended up occurring. So when Zed pushes in top, so let me just rewind really quick. Okay, so right here. So this is why I said, what are they doing? Alright, so Zed and Rengar push in top. Alright, now, you see what's going on here. Maokai doesn't have teleport. Okay, now because they benefit from, Immortals benefits from what? Open side lanes. Okay, they benefit from fighting from side angles. They benefit from, here, let me open this up. They benefit from attacking from here. They benefit from this. They benefit from that. They benefit from this. They benefit from all of this, and they benefit from this. Okay, let me just use a different color. Okay, they benefit from this white area. Okay, they benefit from this, and they benefit from the red lines. Okay, Immortals does not benefit from a straight up fight. Okay, so if for some reason you can vision control the red lines and negate the white circles from ever occurring, then Immortals gets hurt. They are hindered in their approach to any sort of a fight and any sort of macro rotations. Now, Maokai doesn't have what? He doesn't have teleport. So what happens now if you surrender the pawn in mid? Okay, now it doesn't, just because a piece is really valuable, it doesn't mean that you don't ever sacrifice it, right? I mean, if you play chess, you know about queen sacrifices, you know about, sacrificing a bishop or a rook, a knight, etc. for position. That's exactly what this is, because you acknowledge that your team comp benefits from this actually being gone if the opposing team has shown time and time again that they do not know how to fight against your team's weaknesses. So with that being said, you can just keep Zed in top right now. You can surrender this, because then if Zed is in top and Rengar, if we go back even further, okay, and Rengar stays there as well, now they can send Maokai there, which is fine, okay. So if they send Maokai there, Maokai is not too strong. He is at a power spike timing because he has his one item, etc. But then if Maokai comes there, so let's say Maokai walks around here like this, okay? Does Zed necessarily need a recall right now? Or does Rengar necessarily need a recall? Not necessarily, okay? Because NRG hasn't had a very healthy recall. They haven't necessarily hit a power spike on all of their champions. Now, they have, in some cases, they have the Triforce on Corfi, they have the Manamune, I was about to say Muramana, on Varus, okay, and they have the blue buff on Varus. But there's no reason that they can't trade mid tower for superior position, is all that I'm saying. They have not hit a power spike yet that would enable them to keep going. So if this tower falls, they could keep going. Now we see that even though they recalled Rengar, even though they recalled Zed, they still lost mid tower, okay, which comes down to foresight. Which means that you can go back in time, you can reverse engineer the VOD, and you can know that that would happen regardless, even though that's something that you want to happen. So rather than try to prevent it, rather than try to save the queen, rather than try to save the bishop, and rather than try to have your cake and eat it too, instead just play against NRG's weaknesses, which is what they're not doing. And okay. So what I wanted to say here was the four man. Now I wish I could see how much gold they were holding, but I can't see it. Where is it? It's right here, right? Yeah, it's right here. Okay. So this. You see this? Why does this happen? Ask yourself. Why does it happen? Who initiated this fight? Immortals. Okay. Does that mean that it needs to occur? No. Is that NRG's choice that it occurs? No. Does NRG need to get this mid tower? No. We've already established that getting the mid tower actually doesn't do anything for NRG. Does it benefit them slightly in terms of gold? Yes. Does it benefit them in terms of position? Technically, yes. Have they shown that they can use or benefit from the positional advantages that it could theoretically provide them in some cases? Yes. Will they? No. So because of that, it doesn't matter. All right. So this is a coin flip. These are like the 60-40s, the 70-30s, etc. that I talk about. Now, if they rotate to bottom, okay, and they concede their tier 1 tower, all right? So what you're going to do is you concede the tier 1, and you just rotate to bottom. Immortals doesn't have an angle of approach, and because they don't have an angle of approach, even though you're willing to concede your tier 1 tower, you have a superior dragon recall, and you have superior vision control over dragon, and that's perfect. Like, because there's nothing else that you need to be doing, because now you need to be shifting into the engine of, like, a catapult. You need to go into catapult mode. And catapult mode is like, you only fight when Varus has blue, you fight around Varus's power spikes, and you move as one. You don't move to the side lane, you don't push out the lane. Corki, what are you doing? Corki, don't shove that lane. I don't know what you're doing down. Alright, he doesn't shove it. That's good. And then Huni pings that bot shoved in, and this is fine. And this is what they need to do. NRG needs to acknowledge that they are now in a defensive mode. They are Terran from StarCraft 1. They are literally playing the siege tank and Vulture-style Terran versus Protoss. This is all they need. Well, as long as they have this ground and this is controlled by them, and they make sure that the adequate they have adequate warding and the the spots where they need the proper pink wards and they need the proper wards are covered, so that the angle of attack from Rengar and Zed is basically nullified or it's prevented, then they win the game. Because the onus, again, is on IMT to find cracks in NRG's armor and then break through and exploit it. Right? But they haven't shown us that they're doing that yet. So if they just control and fortify this location, and an objective like Baron or Dragon comes up, they need to group up. Maokai is more than capable of holding down one of the lanes by himself. You want this conceded, okay? And the reason that you want this conceded is why? Well, if you've ever played Risk, okay, it's very difficult to defend Asia. Alright, in Risk or whatever. I actually don't know how it's drawn out in Risk, but you know what I'm talking about. And there is like 7 entrances, this is not exact by the way, there's like 7 entrances to Asia in Risk. It's disgusting, okay? Now, imagine that you're playing Risk and you could control Asia and get the same exact amount of soldiers per turn, etc., but only have to defend 3 areas. Of course you just want to defend the 3 areas. It doesn't make any sense not to. So this is actually hurting NRG. Anything they invest into the defense of this tower is negative. It has negative returns. The ROI on it is bad. Okay? So it doesn't make any sense. Let this die. And then when you let it die, look at your defense. This is it. Okay? Do you see this small little hump right here? Okay? You don't want that anymore. You want that to fall. That is a bad business. So imagine like you're a chain of restaurants. You are a chain of Chipotle, and this Chipotle generates, negative 10,000 every month. Just get rid of it. Just throw it out. Okay? Now, don't try to be optimistic and say, well, what if we can have that one live too? That would be great for our business. No, it's not great for your business, and the people will find jobs elsewhere. So, anyways, with that being said, that's all you need to do. And then when Dragon and Baron comes up, you execute a 1XX4. And what I mean by XX4, I mean situationally, you will move as 4 in a location or a direction that will benefit your team and suffocate Immortal's approach on you. Okay? So again, we're already 18 minutes into this game, and we have not seen one example of the picks and bans. We just haven't. And obviously, could you nitpick if you really want to be willfully ignorant and you can find examples of it? Of course. In the big picture of things, even in the medium, and like not even in the big, you can go medium. It doesn't mean anything. We've already shown that there's been too many blunders macro-wise, too many blunders micro-wise, that the picks and bans would matter. They don't. They should. Absolutely they should. But at this point in time, they hold no relevancy. They only hold relevancy to someone that wants an excuse for why they lost. As for someone that wants to justify, like, oh, well, you only lost because of this. No. You didn't lose just because of that. You lost because you got outplayed on a macro scale. Okay? Now, maybe in some cases, okay, you are going to lose because of, picks and bans. Maybe it will happen, but not as much as people like to think. I have not seen one instance where, obviously it was a few instances maybe where something occurred, but not seen anything that would go, oh, okay, well, this is really brutal to work around, or you can't work around this, you can't salvage it, this is just checkmate. What? Why did he just use that there? Wasn't that his special delivery? What? Look at all the investments into QSS and how early it has to occur. It doesn't have to occur this early if they were already doing the slow engine. You can easily go... Now, one thing I will point out, which is really intelligent, okay, is look at this. Notice the tier 1 boots. And notice where the tier 2 boot is. This is really minor, this is super intelligent, and it's really smart by NRG and the players. Because they acknowledge that they do not actually need to be running around, and it is bad to be running around. So just having the tier 1 boots and just simply matching Immortals at where they need to be enables them to benefit, or to have a bigger, punch in the fights, because naturally they should only be on the defensive. Now, this is an example. Why are you this far up? Why are you doing this? Doesn't make any sense. Your comp's not supposed to do this. You are not fighting around Varus. Doesn't make sense to move out this far. Your items do not benefit from moving out this far. Immortals wants you to come out. It's sort of like, imagine that you're playing an MMO and there's an area on the map where players can gank you and kill you and get your items. That is what Immortals is preying on. Okay? They want you to step outside those grounds and pounce on you. What they don't want you to do is stay inside your castle, because eventually they're going to starve. Okay? These people are going out and killing zombies, when in reality the zombies are going to starve themselves. It doesn't make any sense. Now, some people in chat are talking about power spikes. There are no power spikes right now. People throw around these terminologies like it holds merit in every single situation. There is no power spike. There is a point, however, where Immortals just bends over. Eventually, Immortals is going to starve so much, their bodies are going to get so frail, Varus is going to go, he's just going to ask them what's good and shoot an arrow, and they're going to suffocate the sides, and they're going to prevent any angle of attack from Rengar and Zed, and then Immortals is just going to bend over. They're just going to keel. Doesn't make any sense. You can't do this. You can't. You stick 4 to a middle lane, or you stick 4 to a mid lane or a neutral lane, and you keep the one person that can stand against Zed and Maokai in the opposing lane. Now, obviously, in this instance, it's only going to be Maokai, right? But it doesn't make any sense. Why is Corki there? Of course Corki's going to get nuked. It doesn't even matter about his QSS. That's like what Zed wants. The other thing that I should say is when I watch these games, okay, for the most part, I only look at this about literally 10% of the time. My eyes are on here 90% of the time, because this is all that matters. In my opinion, and I can present facts and stuff that would advocate for it and back it up. That if you're in chat right now and you're wondering about analysis and coaching, this doesn't matter. This only matters 10%. This matters 90%. This is it. All of this is what matters. I guess in some cases this as well. Like if we break it up into more percentages, you know what I mean? But this part of the screen, it doesn't matter. It matters. Well, it does matter. I don't mean that it... Don't take 10% as 0%, okay? So when I say this matters 10%, okay, there is a 1 in front of this 0, okay? This is not just, this doesn't matter at all. Because I feel like some people misinterpret me saying that it's 10%, and they think that I just mean it doesn't matter at all. It does matter, but very seldom does it matter. They can't. They don't know how to fight against this. They have no idea how to fight back against them. It just comes down to a flaw in their understanding of their team comp and what their strengths and weaknesses of that comp are, but not just their team comp, but also what Immortals needs. Okay? If you understand your opponent, you know, then... I forgot what the code is. The quote is. Know thy enemy, know thyself, or something. Yeah. Or something like that. If you know exactly what your opponents want, you can only just work against that. You don't even need to know what you don't want. Look. The only fights they had any chance winning were the direct, straight runway fucking plane flights. Oh my god. Yeah, 3 QSSs. Must be nice. Must be nice. They also should not have gone 3 sweepers. That doesn't make any sense. 3 sweepers is a poor decision. They should be going 2 yellow trinkets. Actually, maybe even an RG... No, okay. I guess they need to rotate their reds and yellow trinkets in RG. But anyways, I guess this game is over? Why is there... What? Why is there 13 minutes left? They need to 1-3-1 with Rengar in mid. Or, they need to 1-1-3 with Rengar in mid. Honestly, funneling some gold. There's something about macro-wise about League that I never got to experiment with, and I actually discussed it with Thorin. And if I ever, for some reason, coach a team again, I definitely will see if it works. And I think that if it does work, and to my knowledge, it should work, I think it changes a huge part of how League is played. On I think it's not necessarily a meta change. Well, it is a change in the fundamental meta, and in the fundamental core of League. But I think that would be good. Anyways, so that's it for this, and that's it. So I think this VOD is.
Okay, so I know that might not be kind of the most thing you could be doing, but if you take nothing out of this session, it's kind of the fact that Ryan wanted to learn a lot more about how comps work and what comps do what necessarily in terms of when they can do this, when they can do that. And if you take nothing out of it, take away the fact that Indeed
yeah, I'm good.
is kind of
You go in bed. Okay.
countered by like
Cheers.
banking gauge.
Dunno. What's for dinner, Tora? Corey. Can you ask Dad? Or can you wake him up and ask him? Cheers. Can we get a tikka masala next? And a korma. And a boona. And a jalfrezi and a dufioza. Cheers. Alright, I'm back.
No worries.
Dinner is an important fucking topic, man. I legit went through an extremely large phase where I could only play if I was satisfied food-wise. If I was hungry, I had zero playing ability. It was like think if I want to get tilted and just like times it by 10, and that's how I'd play on an empty stomach. I would eat and then be not hungry, and I'd be like amazing.
Okay, so yeah, effectively, if you take nothing else from the session, I want you to take kind of this knowledge about comps. If they're paid, obviously there's variables, and I don't want you to, with kind of return to this, I don't want you to think that if we take a siege comp and they get some kind of flanking gauge, I equally don't want you to think that it's solely game over. Because hopefully within that game you saw how many macro errors both teams made. That's on the LCS stage in North America. There's heavy pro play, and Immortal was one of the favourites for North American crown. So they're not even like a kind of low tier NALCS team, they're very high. So the amount of mistakes that are made at your elo, magnified kind of probably 25 times over in comparison to this. So any comp can be any comp, but in terms of your knowledge, something like a siege comp does struggle against these kind of flank. Okay. If you want to go off and do something else, if you want to watch LCS and look at various rotations, we can go in TS together and watch that, or whatever you want to do. It's kind of free.
I knew you would do that.
That's all right.
There's a zillion in LCS.
What, mid lane?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
And there's also a Caitlyn.
Lots of Caitlyn's lately. I'd like Ollie to play it in fives. It's kind of a zone control version of Tristana. You don't take towers quite as quick, but you offer a lot of control to your team.
And you actually have a mid game.
Ollie might disagree, but yeah.
What, on Caitlyn?
Yeah, probably.
Well, compared to Tristana, I think anything has a mid game compared to
User
Tristana.
joined your channel.
Yeah.
Who is that?
That's fuckboy Chin from work.
Hello.
Hello.
Steve,
What?
there's a zillion mid.
No, I
In
know.
NA.
Yeah, I knew the Zillion was going to come through eventually because of all these flanks and stuff. He is pretty good. It's just like the first time we played him, we had a really scrappy game.